All right, let's get right into it. Today we're taking a deep dive into the province of Isabela in the Philippines, where there's a really complex learning crisis going on. But this isn't just about the problem. We're going to unpack an innovative blueprint that's designed to fix it. And get this, it's built to work right in the middle of a massive nationwide policy revolution.
So to really wrap your head around this situation, you have to start with these two bars. Now, at first glance, things look pretty good, right? In Isabela's region, almost 90% of people can read and write. That's your basic literacy. But then, look at that second bar, functional literacy, the ability to actually understand and use what you're reading. That number just plummets to about 72%. That's a huge drop. So what on earth is happening in that gap between just saying the words and actually getting the meaning?
Well, this thing actually has a name. Researchers call it the Isabela Gap. And that's really the central mystery we're going to solve today. What this gap shows us is that the system is, teaching kids how to sound out letters, but it is failing, fundamentally, to teach them how to think. So the big question is, why?
To get to the bottom of that why, we really have to peel back the layers and look at the root causes. So let's jump into our first section and see what's really driving this crisis on the ground.
Okay, so a massive piece of this puzzle is language. I mean, it makes sense, right? For a kid to learn to read, they need books and materials in the language they actually speak at home. For Ilocano, the main language materials are already hard to come by. For Ibonic, there's a little bit of support starting to show up, but then look at that last row. For children from the indigenous Gaddang community, there are literally zero formal learning materials. Not some, not a few, zero. It is a complete and total vacuum.
And this is where the problem really comes into sharp focus. We're not just talking about a lack of books here. This is a complete institutional failure. The language these kids bring with them from home, it just doesn't exist inside the school walls. Just try to imagine being 5 years old, you walk into a classroom for the first time, and you can't understand a single word the teacher is saying. That is the day one reality for a Gaddang learner.
And of course, none of this is happening in a bubble. You have to layer these powerful socioeconomic forces right on top of that language barrier. The local research is crystal clear. A parent's level of education and their family's economic status are huge predictors of how well a child will do on tests. And remember, this is a farming region. So when it's harvest time, kids are often pulled out of school to help in the fields. This isn't just a school problem. It's a community-wide, generational challenge.
So what about the teachers who are trying to hold all of this together? Well, this number right here, it's just staggering. Over 7.5% of the schools in this region are multigrade. What that means is you have one single teacher in one classroom trying to teach kindergartners, first graders, and second graders all at the same time. I mean, how could one person possibly be expected to do that job?
This quote really just says it all. Teachers are buried under impossible workloads with almost no resources to back them up. It's an absolute recipe for burnout, and it tells you that the system, as it's currently built, is completely unsustainable. But just when you think it can't get any more complicated, well, it does. Big time.
And that brings us to Section 2, because on top of everything we've just talked about, the entire national education system is going through a seismic shift. And this is creating both a massive threat and, believe it or not, an incredible opportunity. Okay, here's the whirlwind of change that any potential solution has to navigate. First, a brand new curriculum called MATA-TAG is rolling out. Boom. Second, a national learning recovery program called ARAL is about to launch. Boom. And third, the biggest one of all, a new law just ended mandatory mother tongue education. Any solution for Isabela has to somehow work with all three of these huge forces colliding at once.
And this slide shows you the most dramatic reversal. For years, the rule was simple, and it made a lot of sense. Teach young kids to read in the language they speak at home. Well, the new policy completely flips that on its head. Now, Filipino and English are the main languages right from day one. Using a child's home language is now optional and, frankly, very difficult to actually do. For that Gaddang-speaking child we've been talking about, this is a potential disaster.
So what you have is a perfect storm. These new policies create a huge risk for the most vulnerable kids. But, and this is the absolute key, this chaos also creates what the research calls systemic hooks. It's like the disruption opens up these little connection points, these brand new power outlets where a really smart, targeted solution can plug directly into the government's new priorities. Which brings us to our third section, the blueprint itself. So how do you design a solution that not only survives, but actually thrives in this chaotic new reality? Let's take a look.
The whole thing is built on a framework called a multi-tiered system of supports, or MTSS. Now, the crucial thing to understand is this is not just another reading program that gets dropped into a classroom. No, this is a fundamental redesign of how the entire school operates to proactively support every single student, giving each kid exactly the academic, behavioral, and emotional help they need to succeed.
But here is the real game-changing idea. A normal MTS puts all that extra work on that one teacher who's already completely burnt out. This tutor-led model creates a brilliant division of labor. The teacher's job is now laser-focused on one thing, delivering great instruction to the whole class. And at the same time, a highly trained intervention tutor comes in with their own laser-focused job, to provide that specialized, small group help for the kids who are starting to fall behind.
And this is where it all just clicks together so beautifully. This model doesn't fight the new government policies, it actually makes them work. That intervention tutor, well, they're perfectly positioned to be the official ARAL tutor for the government's new recovery program. That brand new monotag curriculum, the classroom teacher is now finally free to teach it properly. The system doesn't compete with the Department of Education, it becomes the engine that powers its most important priorities. It's just so smart.
All right, let's move to our final section and bring this all the way back to the beginning. Let's go back to that child who walks into a classroom speaking a language that, for them, doesn't exist on paper.
So let's think about that Gaddang-speaking learner again. In this new world, they are facing a triple threat: a language policy that pushes their mother tongue aside, a complete lack of official learning materials, and a long, sad history of being overlooked by the system. They are, without a doubt, the most at-risk children in this entire equation.
So how does the tutor help them bridge this massive gap? With a powerful technique called cross-linguistic structured literacy. And what's amazing here is just how simple and effective this is. The tutor uses the child's home language, their L1, Gaddang, not as a barrier, but a bridge. They start with a picture of a chicken. In Gaddang, they say manak, and identify that first sound. Then they show them that in Filippo, hey, it's the exact same word in the exact same sound. The child makes an instant connection. And only then, once that bridge is built, do they introduce the new English word, chicken.
You see what's happening there? This isn't just some clever classroom trick. It's grounded in the science of how we learn. The solution is to explicitly use what the child already knows, their home language, to speed up their learning in Filipino and English. You don't ignore the mother tongue. You treat it like a superpower. You leverage it.
So when you really step back and look at the whole picture, what you have is a model that is just incredibly well designed. It's tutor-led, which protects teachers from burning out. It's perfectly aligned with national policy, which gives it a real chance to last. And it's culturally grounded, providing a critical lifeline to the most vulnerable kids. And all of that leaves you with one really big question. Could this be more than just a fix for one province? Could this be the blueprint for what really works in some of the world's toughest classrooms?